A very good evening to everybody watching us out there on the continent of Africa and beyond. My name is Bernard Akede, and it gives me gladdings, or should I say glad tidings? It's not Christmas, but it gives me glad tidings to be on this show and to have you watch us today. This is Report Desk Africa, or as we like to call it, RDA, where we try to bring you some of the most interesting and, will I say, intriguing stories that have taken place across the continent, most of which have been covered by News Central reporters. I usually do not do this alone. And joining me in my white outfit today is Blessings Mosugu. Good evening, Blessings.
Good evening, Bernard. Good evening, Africa. This is Report Desk Africa, and once again, Happy New Month to all our viewers. And yes, we're both wearing white. We didn't plan it anyways. And this is the program that always promises to give you insights on the top stories, trending stories that makes headlines on the African continent. And as usual, we're going to be dissecting two major stories, which are the Nigeria insecurity, talking about the Kuje prison attack, and we'll also be talking about the Sudanese protests. I mean, the Sudanese people are protesting against military rule, so we will definitely be taking a look into those stories, and we'll have our guests, as usual, dissect the matter, and of course, eventually we'll go into forecast. So we have a lot of things planned for you today. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. It's Report Desk Africa.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, we did mention, or Blessings did mention earlier, that our two stories today will be talking about, first of all, about insecurity, while the other one is talking about a protest somewhere in Africa. Now, we begin from West Africa, Nigeria to be precise, where in the Federal Capital Territory, there was a terrorist attack by a terrorist group, and they stormed the Kuje Custodial Centre in Abuja, a prison, to be more precise. Well, the story we have is that this prison was stormed and several kinds of sophisticated explosives and guns were used to breach the facility, leading to the escape of over 800 inmates, and this happened on Tuesday night. Now, since then, there have been recent developments, and we hear that 400 of the escaped inmates have been rescued or have been recaptured, I beg your pardon, while the remaining 400 are still at large. And of that number, we also hear that 16 inmates who sustained various degrees of injuries are now receiving treatment, according to the Nigerian Correctional Services. Now, we'll take this quick report, and when we come back, we'll be looking into what exactly happened on Tuesday night.
Footages of the Kuje prison attack, released by terrorist group ISWAP, also known as the Islamic State for West Africa Province. While the images have not been verified, however, on getting to the scene, several charred remains of vehicles suspectedly touched by the terrorists were seen around the premises, with a large part of the prison wall, which was brought down with explosives. An increased presence of security personnel was visibly noticed, as several security operatives were seen on ground. Also, several high-profile political office holders visited the scene to get a first-hand view of the attack by the terrorists.
Today is not a time for a lot of speech making. I've just come, I've seen what is here on ground. I've commiserated with the Controller General, and I want to also assure them that the local community, under the leadership of His Royal Highness the Gomo of Kuje, has been informed to summon all the local heads and village chiefs and community leaders, so that those who have escaped here will be traced and will be found. With each incident of this nature, it strengthens everybody. We identify areas of, that needs to be strengthened, and then collectively we work towards that.
The Kuje Medium Security Custodial Centre was built in 1989. Here it's at the Kuje Municipal Area Council of Abuja, just outside the city centre. However, this facility is expected to house between 800 to about 1,000 inmates. Rough estimate gives that there were about 964 inmates that were in the facility at the time of the attack. Just like you can see the charred vehicle, charred remains of this vehicle following the attack. We hear that about 600 escaped, and almost 50% of those that escaped have been apprehended. Officials who came earlier on said that there is a manhunt already for those who are still at large. Later in the day, President Muhammadu Buhari also visited the scene with officials from Nigeria's State House. The Nigerian Correctional Service says the number of escapees that have been recaptured have risen to 443 persons. The service says the number of inmates now back to the facility is now about 551, while 8 persons lost their lives, comprising of 3 members of the terrorist gang, a personnel of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and 4 inmates. From Abuja, Amadin Uyi, News Central Television.
What you just saw there was the Kuje prison, the site after the attack that took place at around 10 p.m. On Friday night. Now, this is a progressing development, and we've heard so many stories so far, and we've also noticed that it has gained international concern, seeing how the United States or the United Kingdom is warning Nigerians to be careful, especially people, residents in Abuja, because we have prisoners on the loose. Now, we know that this, like I said earlier, is a developing story, and we also hear that a certain person in the north has come out to blame the government, saying that he warned them before about the attack and, nobody listened to him. So joining us to discuss this topic right now is our Chief Bureau of Information, Amadin Uyi, who was at the scene of the event, in fact, and he will help us shed more light on this development. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, Amadin.
Thank you, Blessing.
All right, now, Amadin, you were present at the Kuje prison, and I remember I had an interview with you on that day where you went there, where the president, Muhammadu Buhari, was there as well. Now, can you take us through in a few minutes what exactly happened there?
Okay, 2 nights ago, around at about 10:30 p.m., we got SOS messages from friends living around the vicinity, calling us to help them contact security operatives, that they were hearing the sounds of gunshots, heavy bomb explosions, and the rest. We later discovered that it was the prison facility, the Kuje medium security custodial center, that was under attack. Now, this attack went on for between 2 to 3 hours till around 2 past 2 p.m. And then at a point in time, several of them were calling us that they were lying down flat on their rooms because of fear of stray bullets. But after some time, they alerted us on via WhatsApp messages that the sounds had ceased. So in the morning, we visited the scene and saw the aftermath of the attack by the terrorist group. Speaking to 1 or 2 people who spoke off camera, who did not have permission to speak, they explained to us that the prison facility was attacked by terrorists. At that point in time, nobody had claimed responsibility. As usual, we had thought it was Boko Haram terrorist sect or the Islamic State of West Africa in the West African province, ISWAP. Boko Haram first started, later it splintered, and a faction of it formed ISWAP. So ISWAP is usually located, their area of operation is around the fringes of the Lake Chad Basin, around the islands and surrounding vegetation around there, while Boko Haram is more holed up within the Sambisa forest. So everybody thought, as usual, it was Boko Haram, because in times past, they've conducted operations deeper hinterland. In 2014, the United Nations facility was attacked still in the federal capital. Several churches around surrounding towns, Suleja and others were attacked. And then there were also attacks on churches and other facilities around in neighboring states, Kaduna, Kano, Borno. Borno is the epicenter of the attack, but over the years, they had reduced their attacks on churches and now focused on mosques and Muslim prayer grounds because they had seen that the Muslim population did not buy into that their ideology. So it was not like attack anybody, attack Muslims for shutting us up. But also, we also witnessed attacks on rural farming communities and raids on these communities. So when this attack occurred, everybody thought it was Boko Haram, but we were there trying to get abreast of the exact situation that occurred. At first, we were told that over 600 had escaped the Custodial Centre, but the prison authorities with other security agencies had immediately commenced the operation of trying to recover as many of those who were at large. When we got to one visible thing we noticed at the Kuje area was that the police was using a lot of aerial patrols, and we saw a lot of prison patrol vehicles. We saw increased security, heightened security within the Kuje town. And in our presence, the officials were bringing 1 or 2 inmates that they had recovered back and taking them back to the facility. Much later, towards evening, President Muhammad Buhari visited the scene. We initially thought it was the vice president because we were informed that the president was on his way to Katsina, where an advanced team was also attacked by these terrorists. So nobody thought he was in the federal capital, but he showed up much later. He was taken around to see the extent of damage and the level of destruction done to the facility.
Okay, Amadin, let me quickly jump in here. You mentioned, that you, the journalists who were on ground, saw heightened security patrol going around, particularly prison security patrol. Now, while discussing this in the newsroom, we were told that that road leading to Kuje has several security checkpoints. Now, how is it that they were said to have these assailants were said to have arrived in on several number of motorcycles, and did they go through these several security checkpoints? How were they able to go through these checkpoints if they did? And how was it that there was no alarm raised before they eventually made it to the Kuje prison? It seems like the information is still rather sketchy.
Now, if you understand Kuje very well, the terrain, I've gone to do some stories before, gone with farmers into the bush, is surrounded by underlying hills, a lot of hills and a lot of vegetation. So most probably when the terrorists tried to sneak into the town, they did not use the major roads. Yes, you said their checkpoints are the major roads. But at this point in time, when you have several routes in and out, Kuje is a very large community. It's an old and ancient community just beside Abuja's Municipal Area Council. It's meant to be between 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on the level of traffic. So what I think was that these terrorists did not use the major roads because definitely they know that the major roads would be blocked. Another school of thought is that they had already crept into the town and stayed at locations where it was not possible to identify them or locate them, and they carried out attack. Remember that these are not just a bunch of ragtag criminals going about killing people at will. Over the years, they have proven that they have a certain level of organization. I'll give you an example. If you remember the attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train, where several people were kidnapped, remember that months before that time, they had attacked that rail line. I guess they were trying to test the efficacy of their operations to see if it was possible. And then the federal government tried to repair it. I was there when the minister went to inspect the repair works. Not later than 6 months later, at a location where it was difficult for even security personnel to engage them, that was where they now went for the second attack at a more like a valley where there are hills by the two sides. So you see, by the time they destroyed, and it was possible, they destroyed the rail track, it was possible for them to carry out their operation. So if the terrorists have this kind of level of planning, then it will be foolhardy to look and say they carried the attacks on this custodial center, and when the attack was carried out, they've proven over the years that they have a sort of organization. They do their own intelligence work, and they are committed to their cause.
Right, Amadin, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that will lead me to my next question. Now, talking about how strategic these people are, and you just mentioned that they have proven over time. I mean, this is not the first prison attack we've had in this year. We've had not one, not two, at least 3 prison attacks. And then seeing how they have, been calculative about all the attacks, do we say now that this has to do with more about negligence from the part of the security forces, or we're just really, undermining their abilities at this point?
No, in all fairness to the Nigerian security forces, I know I've covered security extensively. It's just that the security agencies are not the normal type of agencies that they have to come out and blow their trumpet. For every successful attack, there are several, in fact, over a dozen that were truncated before they occurred. But just like you said, several prisons have been attacked in the last 2 years. What we expect is that when there's a first attack, there's a second attack. Those in charge of security strategies should sit down and look at and say, how do we forestall these attacks? There have been several attacks. I've covered prison attack at Kuton Karfe in Kogi State. We heard of the other one, I think, at Oyo. We heard of Kaba and several other places. So it's been sort of worrying. I, on my own part, think that the security services and the security agencies need to do more. If you compare the amount of budget that has been released in the last 5 years, we've spent over 4 trillion. And if you imagine that there was a time Nigeria's budget was about 4 trillion and above, 4.5 trillion for a full year. If in the last 5 years to 6 years, we have spent over 4 trillion, and the money keeps on going up because every year more and more is budgeted. It's seeming as if there is a black market economy as it has to do with insecurity, where several people want it to continue because they keep making money. But I would not want to get into that. All I will say is that the security agencies, I think this government and the previous government, in terms of funding, have done fairly well in trying to fund them so that they can meet the expectations by the Nigerian public to ensure that there is adequate security. So, but when we keep on hearing these attacks, and you keep on hearing that several high-profile criminals, then it looks you will be tempted to believe that our prisons are porous and they are easy to break in, and anybody can just get up, plan a prison break, and get whoever he wants out of those facilities.
Amadin, so our producer just told me that we have 5 minutes, but I still have a few questions I want to rush through with you. Now, like you clearly mentioned, this is not the first time. In the space of 2 years, we've seen at least 3 prison breaks. What exactly is it about prisons that now I'm asking you personally as a journalist who has followed security or insecurity stories in Nigeria for many years. Now we're seeing a change, in the trend. There used to be attacks on villages, attacks on churches, attacks on mosques, but now we're seeing attacks on prisons in different parts of Nigeria. What exactly do you think is the interest, when it comes to attacking prisons? Are these attackers trying to, in your own opinion, are they trying to recruit more members so they are going to prisons to get them? Or are they trying to free their members? As we heard, some Boko Haram incarcerated terrorists were freed in this attack. So what do you think is the interest in this new trend of attacking prisons?
Attacking prison is just like attacking a bank. If you are attacking a bank, you are going straight for the money.
Yeah.
If you are attacking a prison, you are not just attacking it because you want to attack. There are certain criminals you want to get out. So when you attack those facilities, you free your people. Either they have been put on death row or they've been given life imprisonment. So attacking prison, most people that attack prisons are usually very, very strategic. But the worry is this. If you observe all the attacks that have taken place, these criminals don't just go in, gun blazing, bring down the walls and get people out. Most of the time, the prison security usually domiciled at the prison engage these people for between 1 to 2 hours.
Exactly.
The worry is By the time they begin to engage these criminals who are outside, why is there no response time from other security agencies to render support? The Kuje prison took almost 2 to 3 hours before they were able to break through. So we need to commend the gallantry and the efforts of the prison security that were domiciled at the museum. It was the same thing when Oko prison was attacked in Benin. The prison personnel at the prison engaged these criminals for close to 2 hours. Now, 2 hours is not 2 minutes. 2 hours is not 5 minutes. 2 hours is not 30 minutes. It should not take up to 20 minutes for more security, more backup, more personnel from other services to come and render support. So at a point in time, when this gallant prison, armed prison squad see that they just have to, it's also discouraging when you see that you're engaging criminals who seem to be more armed than you are, and yet there's no backup. You can't try this outside the country, because in advanced countries, within 15 to 20 minutes, you see the police, you see other services come to the aid of these armed prison personnel who are trying to stop a jailbreak. So what we should be worried about is, why is it that anytime there's supposed to be a prison break, it has never occurred, from my own estimate, in less than 90 minutes. Most of the time, these prison officials engage them for up to 90 minutes to 2 hours, yet help does not come. So that should be our own source of worry.
Very true, Amadin. That's a question that needs answers. Now, finally, in 1 minute, I'm going to ask you this question. Now, there has been a debate, sort of, about whether or not these attacks stem from the fact that the government has, in fact, criminalized payment of ransom to these terrorists. So that makes people assume or believe that the reason why they are more, gingered and emboldened to do these things, carry out these acts, is because the government is stopping people from paying ransom. Somehow people think that there is a connection between those two things. Do you think that there's any connection?
I would have been tempted to go by that school of thought. But considering the fact that prison attacks have not occurred only in the north, in areas where we have had high levels of banditry and insecurity. Just like I said, there have been attacks in Kaba, there have been attacks in Edo. Many years ago, we had attacks in Rivers Bayelsa axis. So it's not only in one part of the country. So I disagree. I just think that sometimes these organized criminal gangs, criminal non-state actors, when they see that a high-profile member has been apprehended by the police and is being kept in a prison, they need to get that person out. So they stage this kind of attacks to try to effect their release.
All right, thank you so much, Amadin. Thank you for, as you always do, giving us deep insights into this particular story. We certainly hope that these prison breaks will be a thing of the past, and that insecurity definitely will be something that Nigerians can look back and say it once was a thing of the past. Thank you so much again, Amadin, for joining us.
Thank you, Amadin.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Blessing.
All right.
And definitely, we do hope that this will be a thing of the past. Seeing several prison breaks, and this time it's not a movie. This is real prison jail breaks. Now, one final thing that Amadin said that really struck me is the number of time or hours it takes, for these assailants to actually, like they say, bust a prison and get inmates out. Over 90 minutes is enough time for reinforcement, for backup to come and actually engage and push back and probably defeat these assailants. But not once, not twice, not 3 times. We haven't seen this happening.
There's no doubt that these security personnel are doing their best, but I think that at this point there should be, space for improvement. We need to be more prompt. We need to act faster. It's like we're really underestimating them. Like, what can they do? After all, it's just one attack, 2 attacks, and then before you know, we're counting 5, 6. So if we do not take action, and prompt action. We have police stations almost everywhere in Nigeria, so I don't think that there's so much distance between them and the prison. So yeah, we need to be more prompt.
And with the elections coming in less than a year, there are more questions than answers.
True.
All right, now we'll be going on for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking into another part of Africa. We're talking about Sudan. Where we'll be looking into not insecurity this time, but basically we're looking at the people pushing out the military rulers and asking for a return to civil rule. Do stay with us. you.